Bally's announced a merger with the Queen Casino and Belle of Baton Rouge on Friday. A statement from the Queen Casino CEO, Terry Downey, said, the merger will not affect operations at the Belle of Baton Rouge or the Queen of Baton Rouge, nor does it impact the Belle construction project. Now, as a little follow-up, we're going to have folks from the Belle on with us. So I believe both the Belle and the Queen on Wednesday to kind of bring us up to speed on the construction projects and where they're at and really what the scope of casinos in downtown are going to look like real soon. East Baton Rouge. You know what? Let me move out here to Gonzales real quick. State police are investigating after an Ascension Parish deputy shot and killed someone early this morning. Information was limited as of this morning, and I'm borrowing this from our news partners over at WBRZ. But LSP, the state police, said the person was shot around 1 a.m. on Burnside Avenue near West Maurice Roth Road. The person was taken to a hospital where they later died from their injuries. The person's identity was not immediately released. So this is it's obviously a developing story. We don't know a whole lot just yet. Number two, you heard from Ray in our traffic report right there. Central Police are working a single vehicle crash on Hooper Road to start off the morning. Central Police Department said this crash happened around 1:30 a.m. on Hooper between Jor and Sullivan. A truck was driving east on Hooper when it crossed the center line, left the roadway before hitting a culvert and flipping multiple times. The driver had to be extracted and taken to a hospital in critical condition. And as Ray was saying, with that is reported as well. Let me stick with what's in print so far. There was no further information on whether the driver succumbed to their injuries, but police said one of the agencies working the investigation was the EBR Fatality Division. One person was hurt in a shooting along North 39th Street on Sunday night, just 30 minutes after a killing half a mile away. The second shooting happened near the corner of North 39th and Washington Avenue around 8:15. One person was taken to a hospital in stable condition. Around 7:45 p.m., a person was shot and killed near the intersection of North 30th and Jackson Avenue. Details on suspects are limited. What you got there, Cade? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. This was tossed around back in like the late 80s, early 90s as an idea. And I believe that wasn't the first time it's been tossed around as an idea. But if you stop making the penny, it doesn't stop being currency. You just live with the number of pennies that are out there. I think pennies are kind of like hard candy. I think we're just good with what we've got. I shopped at pennies over the weekend. But no, it's yeah, I don't know. You can get all the prices down to where it's on 5s and 10s, right? And do you round up or round down? So you're always going to have the issue of a penny, like, oh, exactly. Dime loafers, man. Inflation, baby. See? Mm-hmm. It varied in between 1.5. It got down to a point. A lot of folks said it was going to be a pick 'em by kickoff, but yeah. Right. I know. Yeah. And not just Zach Bond. CD Deuce got one as well. Got called back for a penalty, but he had a pick as well that it didn't hold up. But man, yeah, you got to see former Saints in action last night. I'm not. So what we're told is that we didn't understand the message. We didn't understand the message, and I don't. That's fine. Tell me what the message was. I would love to fully understand what Uncle Sam's role was there. Oh, Samuel L. Jackson deep cuts right there. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this at greater length at 625 because this is a whole can of worms that it really, and it, believe it or not, we got the Louisiana influence. It's just in the pregame show.
Oh, I'm sorry. They couldn't hear me in the chat. I didn't have
sorry about that.
The button on, but now thank you, Byron. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The question of where was the Louisiana influence on the halftime show? LA did the best job of this in recent years.
The female that was up there, her name was SZA.
SZA.
Okay.
Yes.
Also,
SZA.
It makes a difference, and I'm sounding like the old man here. I didn't recognize any songs. There was a hook from one of the songs that I had heard before, but other than that, I guess when I'm not familiar with the music, it's hard to get into it. A couple of years ago in LA, as far as hip hop acts, they had Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and that was,
throwbacks to the 90s, man. That was the Chronic. That was what we all wanted.
So that was familiar, but not having a lot of familiarity with the songs and lyrics.
The halftime show definitely narrowed down the scope of who was going to appreciate it.
I missed a lot of the pregame, but I heard that the Human Jukebox did a heck of a job.
We're going to talk about that coming up 6:20. Right now, though, we're at 6:13. We are due up for a break. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. Check them out online at vexeuropean.com. is a great place to start. And the reason is because Vex specializes in European vehicles. And if you go to vexeuropean.com and hit that little drop-down tab, look for your make of vehicle. If it's on there, they have an expert-level technician for your vehicle. Mercedes, BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, you know the rundown. Just hit the drop-down tab, look for yours, and then go from there. Fill out the little form to set up your appointment online. I'll add this, though. Hit up that specials drop-down tab, too. Save yourself $100 on your first visit, almost for sure. And then go on over to see them at Vex European, celebrating 10 years in the business, which I think is important because you don't get to stick around for 10 years if you don't know what you're doing. Vex European has been at this for over a decade now. This model of what I like to call Vexpertise, they're doing it right. And they're making sure you're taken care of. Your vehicle is taken care of. Look, I've got a 17-year-old car. It takes a lot of TLC to keep that thing running. And they do exactly that over at Vex European and vexeuropean.com. Quick break. We'll come back. Talk LSU women's basketball next. Oh. Weird. You get those highlights? Okay. 1.3, then 4.1, and then 4.3. Troy says, went to Vex on Friday. Wonderful experience, and I did name drop. Darn right. That's awesome, Troy. Thank you. Multi-generational entertainer that would appeal to a broader watch. Yeah. You're pigeonholed into one genre like that. Like, 102.5 plays songs that are 20 years old now. I was listening to 102.5 the other day. I heard Britney Spears is Toxic. That's 20 years old. Oh. 618 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Well, if you were looking for a close battle in the Super Bowl, you didn't get it. However, if you tuned in to hear the LSU Tigers take on the Tennessee Volunteers yesterday, you got exactly what you were hoping for as far as the close game was concerned. And you got an LSU win, 82-77, your final score. And this was a back and forth game. There was not much difference between the number 6 team in the nation and the number 19 team in the nation. It was back and forth. On LSU side, they were led in scoring by Kalen Gilbert, who was 3 of 4 from behind the arc, 7 of 15 overall from the floor, and put in 6 free throws as well. Talk about some of those 3 or 4 from behind the arc. No. I'm sorry. Let's start with Michaela Williams, who early on got things started behind the 3-point line.
Williams left wing. She'll take a 3 and hit it.
Okay. Transition baskets, whether it's a pull-up jumper, a 3, a layup. Let's get it.
7-2 LSU, a Bengal Pest Products 3-pointer.
The Tigers would end up making 6 3-pointers overall. That was 1 of 2 by Michaela Williams. Now over to Gilbert, who was, like I said, was 3 of 4. When things were getting tight towards the end of the game, stepping back behind the 3-point line was a difference maker.
Inbounds, Morrow double team, so she'll get it into the corner. Gilbert to hoist a long one again. It's good again.
Okay.
A 3.
Okay.
And LSU's back by 1. Kalen Gilbert with 20.
One more time, back to Michaela Williams, who had 16 on the night, and this was just a backbreaker of a 3-pointer.
Spear with the left hand, no good from 5 in the lane. Morrow rebound. Morrow dribbling down the court, will dish it. Williams for 3.
Let's
go! It's good!
Can I get a timeout?
Timeout, Tennessee!
I'm sorry, the color commentator
And
cannot call
LSU
timeout.
leads it by 5.
Up next will be number 4 Texas coming up on the 16th. Here's the Fox Business
I'm
Report.
Maria Bartiromo, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The Trump administration is planning another round of tariffs, 25% on imports of steel and aluminum. Bitcoin's price is higher, though under $98,000. Prices of other cryptocurrencies are mixed, with investors considering the impact of the latest tariff plans. Though Bitcoin dropped on news of other tariffs, the news might now be priced in. Some Walt Disney insiders are concerned the company has become addicted to price hikes at its parks and has reached the limits of what middle-class Americans can
Do what?
afford. The Wall Street Journal says
Elizabeth
discussions
Vargas is
inside
recorded
Disney
and in
focus on
today's
whether
folder.
the company is alienating park goers. A 2-day Walt Disney World stay for a family can now top $4,000, including lodging. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
Trust and Will knows that we'll all eventually need a will. How about right now? Trust and Will makes creating your will easy, like while you're lounging on the couch easy. Trust and Will is designed by attorneys but customized by you, and all documents are state-specific and secure. Find your plan at trustandwill.com and use offer code RADIO now for 10% off. That's trustandwill.com, offer code RADIO. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
Galen says news is on. Yeah. Who would put that pot into the stream? That pot doesn't belong in the, like, I'm pretty well convinced that somebody just comes in here and pushes buttons from time to time. should. Came in early. So I'm just guessing John's out all week, huh? Then let's plan for the whole week and just call it so we don't have to do a day by day thing, because it's easier for you to map it out rather than have to beg somebody at the last minute. Did anybody see the pregame show? Oh, that's me. Yes, it's time to head back to the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center, and the big story on our surface streets right now coming out of Central, where that accident with a potential fatality was being worked from overnight. That was on Hooper in between Jor and Sullivan Roads. Outside of that, backing up to look at your interstates, I-10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish looking great. 12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish is looking good as well, and so is 10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish. I-110 smooth sailing right now as well. Back to the surface streets again. We do have a crash with injuries being worked by the Sheriff's Office, Innovation Park and Gulf South Parkway, and there's another crash. This goes back to Central a little further away, the Lovett Road and Magnolia Square Circle. That was reported about 10 minutes ago, so it's still being worked at this time. That is your look at traffic from the Shawbills Tire Traffic Center. .625 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. So, one-sided, lopsided Super Bowl last night. It was obviously lopsided in the way that a lot of people wanted. I don't know why people don't like dynasties in sports. I mean, back in the 70s, did people hate the Steelers this much? In the 80s, the 49ers. Let's see, in the 90s, I guess the Cowboys would have been mid-90s. And they were, quote-unquote, America's team. And yet now, when you have a dynasty, is it just because it's the Chiefs? And that, to go along with that, I further don't understand, because the Chiefs have so many elements that should be great, that should be fun. If you can leave your politics at the door, the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing ought to be a fun little romance story that we all get to enjoy as a side note. Now, granted, TV overdid it by just forcing them down our throats at every turn. And there's another aspect of this that I absolutely love, and you hate to see Andy Reid ever lose to the Eagles ever, because he got thrown out of Philadelphia because he couldn't win. Like, he used to be the Eagles coach, and they didn't want him anymore because he couldn't win the big game. And now he's got, 3 Super Bowls under his belt, and is looked at as one of the greatest of all time. Obviously not the greatest of all time, but definitely up there, pretty far up the list. There's a lot of things about these Kansas City Chiefs that's likable. And yet, for some reason, they were sorely, sorely disliked. Flip it over to the Philadelphia Eagles, and you know what? We all got to watch it on TV. Some got to hear it here on Talk 107.3 or on 104.5 ESPN. What we did not get to hear was the call from inside Philadelphia, the call on 94 WIP, 94.1 WIP. Here's how it sounded for Eagles fans back home.
It's over. The Philadelphia Eagles have won Super Bowl 59. They have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. It's their second Super Bowl win in 7 years. What a game. What a season. What a team. The greatest Eagles team in modern history. Eagles fans, savor it and rejoice.
Okay. Not the best call. It's not, Jim Henderson's pigs have flown, hell has frozen over. But I guess when you're going for your second Super Bowl, nobody's really marking the tape the way they were for the first one. Get the post game a little bit here. Let's start off on the Eagles side. Nick Sirianni being asked what it's like to be a part of this Super Bowl winning class, what it means to have that under your belt.
Nick, Super Bowl champions. What does the moment mean?
Man, God's blessed us very much. He gave us all the talents to be able to get here. So first and foremost, thanks to him. And this is the ultimate team game. You can't be great without the greatness of others. And great performance by everybody. Offense, defense, special teams, Howie getting us the guys, our coaching staff, these great players. We didn't really ever care what anyone thought about how we won or their opinions. All we want to do is win. That's why we listened to my prerogative a little bit when we were after some wins. But thank God. Thank you, Jesus.
Is that a Bobby Brown reference in there? Very nicely done, Nick. Over to the losing locker room and Andy Reid after the game. Lost my paper there. Andy Reid. He was asked by KMBC 9 if it hurts more because they had the potential of the three-peat in front of them.
You had a chance for the three-peat, so this hurt more than you had a chance for the three-peat and you were able to finish it off.
Yeah, listen, they all hurt. You get this far. You battled your tail off to get this far. Very, very hard to do. And it's we spent a lot of time doing this, and it's not a hobby, right? So we're in it the whole way, and spent a lot of hours doing it as players, as coaches. So it's going to hurt. They all hurt when you get to this level, and these things happen. Three-peat aside or any of that stuff, that you get this far and you don't play as well as you want to, it hurts.
I know this has nothing to do with what he had to say, but it's the flipping Super Bowl. Can we not mic the reporters who are asking the questions? Maybe up that game a little bit. I wanted to talk here about the halftime show versus the pregame show, and we don't have enough time. So here's what we're gonna do. We got Elizabeth Vargas from News Nation coming up next. So at 6:50, let's have this little chat, and I want your feedback over on Facebook Live. Should they have flip-flopped those two shows? Here's news. All right. Well, all those Mary Stein cuts that I grabbed, I'm pretty much just gonna throw them away. The ones I was cutting before, there's 4 cuts in there. Yeah, we could chunk those. That's 20 minutes of work. I want to talk about the pregame show. Any word on did the weather ever come through? Okay. What? No. Yeah. All right. I texted her. Don't worry about it. I got it covered until she does. You got the Elizabeth Vargas interview? Cool. Emma Kate says it's in there. No, she said uploaded at 4 a.m. You are? Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah, but like news and nation are both capitalized. Yeah. This week's forecast is all over the place. Here to bring it to you is WBRZ meteorologist Emma Kate Cowan. For those that have not been paying attention, News Nation continues to put its footprint on cable news. In fact, crushed election night coverage. Part of that election night coverage was the anchor for Elizabeth Vargas Reports, who joins us right now. Elizabeth, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing very well as well. So shakeups to the lineup coming. In fact, as soon as tonight. What are we looking at?
I am moving from 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, to 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. So we're moving 2 hours later, moving into prime time, which was very exciting and very happy to do that. We have had such enormous success in our current time slot. I'm hoping our audience will follow us as we move a little bit later, where we continue to do pretty much the same program we've been doing because it works.
No, absolutely. In fact, a lot of what y'all been doing at News Nation has been working. It's been fun, like, because I had you on when you first launched the show. It's been fun to watch the show grow, and I'm happy to have you on at a time when I'm actually gonna be home now, so I can check out Elizabeth Vargas reports in real time. For those that are unfamiliar yet, for those who haven't gotten on board with News Nation yet, what can they expect from Elizabeth Vargas reports?
We cover what we believe are the biggest, most interesting stories of the day, the things that will have the biggest impact on people's lives, their safety, their personal, economic security, their well-being, health-wise. But we cover a handful of stories. We cover them deeply and ask tough, fair questions, to our guests so that people have a better understanding of what this all means to them. We're not interested in cheerleading for one side or the other. We're not interested in advocating. We're interested in asking the questions I think people at home are asking themselves as they watch this sort of, tornado of a news cycle as it takes place.
The news cycle itself it is a beast, to be sure. But are we too fixated on politics within the news cycle?
I don't think so. I think right now politics is setting the news cycle. President Trump has had a whirlwind of a first not even 3 weeks.
Right.
I guess it'll just be 3 weeks, but he has done, and this was his strategy. He didn't. This is what he said he was going to do. This is what people close to him said he was going to do. That their strategy was to flood the zone and do as much as they could, as fast as they could. And they've done that with stunning speed. Now, the question is, how much of this is what they say it is? How will this all affect you, our viewer? Right. And how much of this is legal? A lot of this has been challenged in court. And so far, Trump is not winning any of these court challenges, but that could change. What does this all mean to you, in other words? So right now, because we have a brand new administration and we have a president who is extremely focused on doing as much as he can, as quickly as he can, with a lot of big battles on the horizon. We've got a big budget battle coming up that I know that people like me included would glaze over when you hear the word budget. But this is really important to average Americans. And that is the number one issue that drove voters to the polls in November to elect President Trump was, inflation, my cost of living. Why can't I get a house?
Right.
Why can't I get a mortgage that I can afford? So these things matter to people, and we cover them day in and day out. So I guess if you want to include that under the umbrella of politics, maybe, but it's actually really life.
Yes, it is. And it's the translation between the two, because politics happens in sound bites. Politics happens in speeches. Real life takes time to play out. And the president has he's hit the ground running, but you can't run a marathon at a sprinter's pace. So I guess my question really revolves around how long before the bold speech and the quick action, how long before that has to translate into I hate to use the phrase that everybody's using, but how long till that translates into the price of eggs?
Well, therein lies the question.
Right.
And the price of eggs is a bad example to use because the price of eggs is astronomically high right now with nothing to do with inflation. It has everything to do with bird flu.
Right.
But the price of everything else is exactly why the number one reason, according to polls, what voters told us, was the number one reason why they voted for President Trump. And they want prices lower. And he promised he would lower them. He has not yet done so. Well, that's not the kind of thing you can magically wave a wand. By the way, we said that during, our coverage during the election season that P.S. he does no President Trump or anybody else gets to wave a magic wand and say prices will be lower. The same way President Biden couldn't magically wish away inflation. And even though, President Trump says he wants to lower interest rates, he cannot do that. That's the Fed that does that. There are other things he can do. But at any rate, that's going to be the question. There's a lot going on right now. But on that issue, the pocketbook issue, I don't know how many months voters give them before they start to get a little antsy about hang on, I'm still not seeing relief. We'll see.
Yeah, we're talking with Elizabeth Vargas from Elizabeth Vargas Reports. And yeah, I brought up price of eggs because the true answer is an apolitical answer, which is kind of the angle that News Nation is going after from start to finish. It's not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. There's a third party here, and that is the rest of the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we aim to do. I think not just on my show, but on many shows is, this is what's happening. This is what it means to you. Now let's have a really tough, respectful, but tough discussion about, is this the best way forward?
We got just 2 minutes left with Elizabeth Vargas. She's moving to 6 p.m. Central starting tonight. Elizabeth, how's the ride been with News Nation? I know you just re-up to stay on board. You continue to grow. You continue to, put your stamp on the world of news. How's the ride been thus far?
It's been really great. I've really enjoyed it. It's been wonderful to cover this news cycle. It's, to be, participating in this is it's a little bit like put on your seatbelt and get ready for a wild ride. I'm sure the viewers and much of America is feeling the same way, but it's been historic and it's been amazing. And I love the fact that this network isn't the, enraging, stoking outrage, fanning the flames of, yes, isn't this horrible? Or yes, isn't this great? It's like we are dedicated, the tagline for the network is news for all Americans or for all America. And that's exactly, where this network fits in. We've been rated by, totally respected experts that we are the most unbiased news network out there. And we proudly wear that. And I think that's where most of America actually lives. So it's been wonderful.
And the reception of it is, are you running into problems with when you don't have bias? There's like a perceived bias, like there's an inference of bias. Has that been presented at all?
An inference of bias?
Yeah, if you're unbiased and you just have the facts. Yeah.
Listen, people will see bias wherever they want to see bias. Usually, people see bias when someone doesn't agree with them. Right. Funny, they don't accuse people of bias when they agree with them. So, part of the issue today is our public dialogue and the way we speak to each other. I think that people need to focus more on the fact that there's a lot more that binds us than divides us. And, just because somebody believes something differently than you doesn't make them, right or wrong. It just makes them, they believe something different from you. And you can agree to disagree, and you can debate your disagreements in a respectful way that doesn't get personal and nasty. I think calling people biased just because they don't agree with you is really counterproductive.
No, absolutely. And bringing the conversation back to centers where that was exactly where I was heading when I was asking the question. You picked it up right where I was hoping you would pick it up with. And you'll be picking it up 6:00 tonight on News Nation. Elizabeth Vargas Reports. I know you got to scooch. I appreciate just a couple minutes this morning.
Thank you so much.
Yep, coming up tonight at 6 is when that will start. I always appreciate the folks over at News Nation. They're giving of their time, and they do present a completely different product than what you're going to get with CNN or with Fox. You get a lot less lean and a lot more just reporting of facts. So thanks again to Elizabeth for her time. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning, y'all. We're getting right back into the Super Bowl in our next segment. Next hour, we will speak with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake for Medical Monday. Pulmonary hypertension is today's topic. Will Green from LABI is going to stop by at 7:35. We'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl festivities. As I don't even know if Will had a chance to make it down over the course of the week, but we use this Super Bowl to grow the state economically. I want to know how we could take that and translate it into LABI's world as well. Just how the city did overall. Not to mention, we need to start looking forward to the annual meeting. Lobby's annual meeting is coming up on the 19th, reception on the 18th, big meeting on the 19th. We will be there, of course, posted up in the registration area, as we are every single year. That goes on my calendar before it goes on Lobby's calendar. So looking forward to the conversation with Will Green. In the 8 o'clock hour, of course, we talk about everything under the sun with Moon. Moon Griffon at 8:15, and then scrolling through social media over the weekend on Saturday, actually, and I saw a post from a guy named Barrett Blondo. He's with Falaya Real Estate. They're located over there in the tech park, and the post was very critical of our innovation in Baton Rouge or lack thereof. And I read through it and I was intrigued, and I said, I want to have this conversation. Why do we lag when it comes to, other markets here in Louisiana on the innovation front? What does innovation actually mean, and how can we do a better job of tackling it? So we're going to talk with Barrett Blondo at 8:35 about that exact topic. We're the home of our state government. We are the state capital. We've got LSU. We've got Southern. What's hurting us? What's holding us back? New Orleans and Lafayette both outpace us on this front. How can we do better? So you're going to want to be here for that conversation, to be sure. Barrett Blondo, 8:35. Right now, we're coming up on Your Money Now. So we'll check Your Money Now. We will check traffic. We'll come back. A lot to unpack from the Super Bowl yet. There's so much more, not the least of which is should the halftime show and pregame show have been flip-flop. That's coming up next. Byron says, did I see the Rogan interview? I did not. Or we can talk about Doge driving the Dems crazy. Probably not, because it's a national topic and it's like every single day. I don't know. We might get there with it. I'm kind of holding back to see what's actually going to be done. Because if you listen to the left, you would make it sound like they've dismantled the government already. And that's not the case. And they know what they can legally do and what they can't legally do. And we're going to have to see a lot of this play out in real time before it's actual news and not speculation. And I don't want to get in the speculation game. Mm. 656 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Brian here with you, Cade Wassian producing. All right, we got ABC News coming up in just a little bit, and top stories and trending on the back end of that to start off the 7 o'clock hour. Right now, though, let's talk about the Super Bowl for a couple minutes. I got a couple of grades here. First of all, for the city of New Orleans, could not have done better. From start to finish, could not have done better. I would be lying if I said I didn't sit there through the halftime show in the beginning of the second half, just a little bit nervous that the power might go out, because, you know, that happened last time. I was a little bit worried on that front. I will tell you this. There's been a lot of folks posting about the halftime show and Kendrick Lamar and saying that just couldn't understand him. And I'm there with you. And the thing is, there's a handful of Kendrick Lamar songs that I like. He played one of them, and They Not Like Us is a decent tune. But for the most part, man, when you pick that specific of a genre of music and you do that halftime show, you're going to lose a lot of people. Cade was saying it earlier. I mean, you gotta open things up to where you have more of your overall audience is going to be dialed in. When you narrow things down that far, you narrow things down that far, and you can expect there to be blowback online. And oh, by the way, if you're the dude that thinks you're cool by telling everyone else to shut up because they didn't like the halftime show, you can bag that take too. It's okay to not like the halftime show, and it's okay to share that you didn't like the halftime show. That's perfectly fine. That's part of putting yourself on a worldwide stage, is you're putting yourself up there for that level of scrutiny. Now, I will say this, and my wife brought this up last night. After the game was over with, she was catching up on some social media and started finding clips of the pregame show. And I want to know why the pregame show wasn't the halftime show. Human Jukebox killed it. Harry Connick Jr. killed it. It was amazing. It celebrated everything Louisiana. The performance value was top notch. I mean, beyond compare. Everything about the pregame show was what we were looking for in the halftime show. And I get that we have that secondary level of want to be local because we're here in Louisiana and it was our state that was on the worldwide stage. Why are you bringing in Kendrick Lamar from California when you've got so much talent in your own backyard? And then when you put all that talent out there for the pregame. Oh, by the way, how about Trombone Shorty and Lauren Daigle as well? Yeah. I mean, from start to finish, everything pregame was everything we were hoping for from the Super Bowl. Now, last comment on this before we have to close shop and hit news at the top of the hour, and we will start hour 2 fresh. But you know who won the Super Bowl? Jameis Winston. everywhere you turned on social media throughout the week, every ounce of content that he put out there for Fox Sports was unbelievably relatable, unbelievably funny, unbelievably entertaining. Jameis was the MVP. Here's news. Sonny says, I love rap. I really like Kendrick Lamar. Squabble Up was my favorite new song last year. I didn't think it was a great performance. Same. I probably don't like as many Kendrick Lamar songs as others, but Kendrick Lamar in a live performance, I would imagine you have to be there. It for some reason doesn't translate over the mass audience. Watched her on election night. She tried to be neutral, but the grasping of straws for Harris Hail Mary was a little too desperate when News Nation's quants were so dead on. Yeah, I bumped around on election night. Obviously, I was doing local coverage as well. What I saw of News Nation was some of the earlier stuff. So I wasn't as dialed as I should have been. Okay, Byron says, I realize I'm old and haven't learned a new song since the Pet Shop Boys, but throw me a freaking bone. All right, but see, if they were to do that as well, now you're telling everybody under the age of 40 they don't count. And if you're looking for 25-54, you can't just hit 25 or 54. There's a medium ground, and that medium is always going to be moving. I think the fact that Los Angeles just killed it a couple years, like they just nailed it from start to finish a couple years ago. That was so good. Hey, Rich. Golden, brother. How are you? Was the Super Bowl everything you wanted it to be? Did he play all your favorites? Did he? I mean, I'm sure you missed swimming pools. Could have gone for swimming pools. Some of Kendrick's earlier stuff. Yeah, pregame was awesome. And see, the Super Bowl's done that before, where they tried to revert to the older side, and that doesn't translate as well. When you start dragging out 60 and 70-year-old rockers. Great point. I don't think we're going to get a better Super Bowl performance than Prince. Bruno Mars is great. Prince was the best ever. Lady Gaga. Gaga was good. It should have, but they don't play enough of When I Hear Music within the song. It's the sample, and it's 99% him and 1% her. (7:05) Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Cade Wazan filling in for John this morning. John's gonna be out all week. Poor guy got the flu. So convenient. Get the flu right after the Super Bowl, huh? No, not really. He was letting us know over the weekend. So he's down for the count right now. We're starting off your second hour at 59 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. We got a busy second hour coming your way. We got Medical Monday with the folks from Our Lady of the Lake. We got Will Green from LABI. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's dig back in. It's time for Top Stories and Trending. After acquiring the Winn-Dixie banner back in March of 2024, Aldi announced Friday that the store chain has been purchased by a group of private investors. A total of 170 Winn-Dixie locations, including those in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Louisiana, were bought from the Aldi group. Now, no word yet on which stores are going to change names.
Number 4.
Bally's announced a merger with the Queen Casino in Belle of Baton Rouge on Friday. A statement from the Queen CEO, Terry Downey, said the merger will not affect operations at either the Belle or the Queen, nor does it impact the Belle construction project. By the way, speaking of that construction project, we're going to have the folks from the Belle on, I believe both the Belle and the Queen, on Wednesday to talk about updates on the project and really what the future of the downtown casinos, what it's actually going to look like. And then give it some time. Once this merger has settled in and we know all the details, we'll have them back on for that conversation as well.
Number 3.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library issued a statement responding to Mayor President Sid Edwards' proposal to take some of their funding to increase pay for BRPD, refuting his claims that the library has a surplus. Quote, the mayor's press release announcing the resolution included budgetary information about the library. It incorrectly stated that the library had a surplus of $114 million. The library does not have a surplus, that statement from the library said.
Number 2.
One person was hurt in a shooting along North 39th Street on Sunday night, just 30 minutes after someone was shot and killed half a mile away. This second shooting happened near the corner of North 39th and Washington around 8:15 p.m. Person was taken to the hospital in stable condition. Now around 7:45 p.m., one person was shot and killed near the intersection of North 30th and Jackson Avenue. Details on both shootings are limited.
Number 1.
State police are investigating after an Ascension Parish deputy shot and killed someone early this morning. Information was limited as of 5 a.m. Monday, but LSP said that person was shot around 1 a.m. on Burnside Avenue near West or East Roth Road. That person was taken to a hospital where they later died from their injuries. The person's identity has not been immediately released. What's trending, Cade?
Well, you can raise your hand if you had Philly in a blowout.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I had Philly. Yeah. Philly minus 2 touchdowns. Yes.
You know, I did place some coin.
Uh-huh.
And I found one that was interesting. And it didn't really pay out much, but it was a win. And it was Philly in time of possession.
Okay.
And I think by the first half, it was, it was doubled. But I was assuming that because Saquon Barkley wasn't his usual self. Yes,
no,
they did a good job with him.
Yeah.
But still.
In the first half.
Yeah.
He was a lot more Saquon in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I had a number of wagers on the game. I followed the Oddfather's advice. We had him on Friday, heading into the weekend.
What was his advice?
Take the over, which I was already on at 48.5. Boy, that made you sweat because when there's 5 minutes left and you're one score away, and you're like, man, if KC doesn't punch it in right now, we're not going to get it. And then you end up with 2 scores.
Yeah.
So it ends up being a rocket chair cover, but it took till the last 5 minutes to get it. So had the over at 48.5. Philadelphia in the first half minus half a point because I took that one because we knew Patrick Mahomes likes to play the comeback kid, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not going to remember the statistic, but I don't think he's led in the Super Bowl at halftime. So Philly minus half a point for the first half. That one paid off. Xavier Worthy under 57.5 yards. I played that. It did not pay. In fact, I think he finished the game with 157 yards.
He was the most productive.
So, until the third quarter, until that 50-yard pass in the third quarter, he hadn't even gotten a look. So, that one felt good until it didn't. And then what did Mahomes over 5.5 carries didn't pay either.
Tough day for Taylor's boyfriend.
It was a tough day for Taylor's boyfriend.
Yeah. Are we about to see the end of the penny, Brian? Donald Trump is asking the Treasury to stop making them. Any word of him renaming it the Trumpy?
No, it's not worth enough for Trump to rename it after himself. Right. He might, rename it after somebody who doesn't think is worthy of that much, that little amount of money.
Oh, fair enough.
So what do you do though? Does everything just round up or round down? And if so, where are all those rounded down cents go?
It's not like this is a new discussion. We've talked about this. People have talked about this for a while.
Oh, since the 80s or 90s for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how you make that happen. I do understand when you look at loose change.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, okay. So what would happen if we just stopped making them? Leave the ones that are in circulation.
Right.
All right. But just don't make new ones.
I mean, is that a problem in retail places?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But how much of our purchasing is done digitally?
True.
How much is with the card? Oh, yeah, I got the tap.
I certainly do that quite a bit.
So, yeah. So you don't need pennies for everything digital. And then, I don't know. I'm not ready to say remove the 1 cent from currency, but sure, we can stop making them for a while. Got that big old jar, everybody's got the jar, right?
Mm-hmm. Saving up for a big trip. Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance definitely got people chatting online. We had Richard Condon just pass by, said he loved it.
Yeah, Condon digging on the Kendrick Lamar, big time.
Bathroom selfies, loves Kendrick Lamar. The guy's changed his game.
He's a new Condon.
Look at that.
I'll tell you. So when compared to other halftime shows, it just didn't live up. It just didn't live up. And specifically, and you and I talked about it before, that one from 2 years ago when the Super Bowl was in Los Angeles and they went all the 90s hip hop.
Yeah.
You're encapsulating so many different demographics that you're serving.
But they also went it worked out that you have the Super Bowl in LA. In LA, what's LA music scene?
Right.
Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, etc. You come here and everybody talked about the culture, the food, the music. And I don't think we delivered in that sense, but that's not necessarily
we
New
did
Orleans.
The pregame show.
Yeah, true.
We did the pregame show, and
somebody said on ESPN radio coming in, listening to our sister station, that so on either end zones, there's the big screens.
Mm-hmm.
One of those screens went out.
Really?
During halftime. So I don't know if there's any truth to that. At least the lights stayed on.
Yeah. Look, that was the biggest win right there. Overall, was the lights stayed on. Everybody stayed safe and the lights stayed on.
Yes.
We shouldn't have to dial it all the way down to that, but last time the Super Bowl was in town, Beyonce knocked the lights out.
Ooh.
All right, 713 Talk 107.3 FM. We got a break coming up. Before we take that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank. Tell you what, you got a big collection of pennies in your house right now. You might want to cash them in at Landmark Bank. Now, the problem there is if you are within Baton Rouge, you're going to have to go to the surrounding area to do so. Landmark Bank has been around for over 100 years, and they have served the surrounding communities of Baton Rouge for that time. You'll find them in Clinton. You'll find them in Denham. You'll find them in Zachary. You'll find them on the west side in Brewley. I said Zachary. Greensburg, they're in there as well. And this is by design. Landmark Bank is a local bank to its core. They believe in business done person to person, business done with a handshake, having a relationship with your banker. Nothing is more important than this when it comes to Landmark Bank. And it's not just your personal banking. Business banking is handled as well. So if you are in Denham, if you are in Zachary, if you are in Brewley, or actually anywhere on the west side over there, funnel into that Brewley branch, wherever you're at surrounding Baton Rouge, give Landmark Bank a look. Don't get lost and turn into some of those national brands, some of those national banks where you're just going to be a number. You are part of a relationship with Landmark Bank. Check them out online, landmarkbankla.com, landmarkbankla.com. Quick break, Medical Mondays next. Sonny says they're round up on 4 cents on everything. No, Medical Monday should be in today's folder as well. Medical Monday. Uh-oh. Look back in Friday's folder. Did I save it to the wrong folder? Damn it. Sorry about that. Troy says both the NFL and MLB have been trying to capture the NBA demographic, so expect more of the same. Yeah, well, that's a shrinking demographic right now. The NBA has been trying hard to recover, and they're just not getting there. And, well, no, the NBA demographic is an international demographic. Sonny says they're going to round up 4 cents on everything. I know, that's my worry. Troy says I'd rather watch a string of comedians at halftime than what's been out there lately. Of course, Nate Bargatze may be the only one that meets FCC standards. I wonder if that would be doable. Think about that for a minute. Hang on, Troy might have the best idea of the last decade. What if we were to have stand-up comedians and just, oh man, either roasting the Super Bowl itself? Man, I don't know, dude. I'm super intrigued right now. I am. It's like forehead slap of an idea. Oh, I got to bail. You got to listen to Medical Monday.
It's time for your weekly checkup. This is Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Health.
I got to talk to whoever schedules these things because it's Valentine's week and we're talking about the heart. Can't imagine that was a coincidence. We're actually talking pulmonary hypertension today. Want to welcome Dr. David Mull from Our Lady of the Lake. Welcome aboard. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Doing very well as well. Glad to have you on here this morning. Glad to be talking about this because honestly, this is probably one that isn't talked about enough. And if you've seen it up close and personal in your own life, within your own family, it definitely changes the game. So thank you for hopping on board. Let's start with the most basic of questions for those who don't know. What is pulmonary hypertension and what are its symptoms?
Pulmonary hypertension, very much like just regular hypertension. I believe pretty much everybody we know is familiar with it to some degree. They have a family member, a loved one, a friend who has high blood pressure. It's checked with a blood pressure cuff on your arm. We've all done it countless times, either in our home or in the doctor's office. And that represents the pressure that is felt from the left side of the heart. There's actually two sides of the heart, not to try and be too crazy about it, but the fact is there's a right side. Not very many people talk about it or have that much of experience with it. The unfortunate fact is there's no way to check the blood pressure for the right side like you would traditionally do, like the left side. And there are a number of different causes that can lead to elevated pressures on the right side, and that is called pulmonary hypertension. The common symptoms that you would see, most likely shortness of breath is going to be the most common one. The unfortunate fact is that a lot of things can cause shortness of breath.
Right.
You could have lung disease, you can have heart disease, or honestly, there's a slew of other things that cause shortness of breath. And unfortunately, that generally leads to a delay in the diagnosis for many of our patients.
Is that because we just don't see it, or is it because we want to write it off as something else?
That's a great question. The honest answer is it's a bit of both. If I could take us back in time a little bit, it might help us to understand. If you remember the magic school bus, we'll pretend we're a blood cell in the bloodstream of the body. We start in the left ventricle. That's the left side of the heart. It's the main pumping chamber. It pumps out through the aortic valve. Then it gets blood flow to the upper extremities, to the brain. Then it goes down to the abdominal organs. Then it's down to the legs and the muscles that are there. That blood then comes back to the right side of the heart, and it acts like a sump pump, and it pushes the blood flow through the lungs, giving it oxygen back that the rest of the body had taken out of it. And it's a beautifully orchestrated system. As you can imagine, most people's heartbeats are 80 times a minute, and it does this over and over and over again throughout your entire life. So it's just impressive on that scale. But if you can imagine, if something would cause the blood flow to back up from the left side to the right side, or get plugged up or slow it down through the lungs, the right side of the heart is going to feel extra pressure. And that's the challenge we have with pulmonary hypertension. You asked again, why is it somewhat delayed? There are many things that can cause people to be short of breath. A common cold that can linger, regular left-sided heart disease. More commonly, we have a number of people still that have pulmonary diseases for any number of reasons. And the fact is, there is a little bit of a delay because of all of that. I hope I explained that reasonably enough.
No, very well done. Absolutely. And yeah, because the fact that there are so many different, like, I can go to the gym and I can work out for an hour and be fine. And then on the flip side, I could take one flight of stairs and be out of breath for the next 10 minutes. Like, it's weird how it could be something that simple could stem from so many, millions of different things. We're talking with David. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I must admit, I'm in my mid-40s now. I feel more winded doing the normal things that I used to could.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we all experience that. I have a number of patients who I see on a daily basis to complain about that. And one of the conundrums we have is, should we test them for a lot of things and do the $1 million workup, if you want to call it that?
Right.
Or should we say, go out, do a little bit extra walking and exercising, and then see if it gets better? And then we need to do some further testing. It can really be a challenge at times to differentiate it.
We're talking with Dr. David Mull from Our Lady of the Lake about pulmonary hypertension. And you're kind of walking us up to the next question here, and that is, who is most at risk?
So if I could, there's one group of patients that we are most concerned about. It's not to say that we don't care about the others, but group one, or primary pulmonary arterial hypertension, is a group of patients that we highlight specifically, that we look for the most, because we have a group of special medicines that we can offer them. The architecture of the lungs changes, and their vessels become tightened down. And as we talked about before, if you tighten down on the vessels in the lungs, it makes the right side of the heart pump harder. But there are a number of other mimickers or other secondary diseases that do similar things, but they don't respond to the special medicines that I just mentioned. The most common group of people that get pulmonary hypertension, but not primary pulmonary hypertension, are patients who have heart disease, a stiffening of their heart over time, usually with age, sometimes after a heart attack, or valvular disease, a leaky valve, and that pressure backs up to the right side. And so you spend most of your time there trying to get the pressure down on the front end and not have as much back pressure. Or patients, for example, who have chronic lung diseases, who have low oxygen levels. Maybe we know somebody who's got emphysema, really bad sleep apnea. Those can cause the lungs to tighten down and vasoconstrict, and that also has a back pressure. And so when we say who's most likely to have it, the honest answer is people who have heart disease backing up are the ones that have it the most. The next biggest group would be patients treated for pulmonary diseases. And then there's that select group of patients that have a very special group called pulmonary arterial hypertension. And those are the patients that we're trying to look for because that's a group that would benefit from some very specific medications. And there are oral medicines now, where 10 to 15 years ago, all we had were cumbersome IV medications. And the field has truly grown really quite remarkably in the last 10 years to now having a multitude of medicines. And just like many people now are on multiple blood pressure medicines, we now are able to give patients multiple pulmonary arterial hypertension drugs to prolong their life, improve their quality of life, and decrease symptoms.
Keep along with that, though, because talking about the different medicines, is that just tell me what treatment looks like when it comes to that, to administering that?
Yeah, unfortunately, these medicines, though we can prescribe them, they're not just on the shelf at your local pharmacy. They have to go to specialty pharmacies. Often, these different medications, we have to track certain blood tests to make sure they're not having adverse reactions to them. But the honest answer is, when I was in my training some 10 to 15 years ago, we truly only had maybe 2 or 3 options, and that was mostly based on IV medicines. Patients had to have an inline pump that they had to carry around all the time with them, 24 hours a day. Now we have 3 to 4 different pathways of medicines that we can use to lower pressures just by taking an oral medicine. Most of them are 1 to 2 times a day. On occasion, we also have some inhalers that you have to take probably 4 to 5 times a day to get the best results. So as you can imagine, that truly does improve someone's quality of life, not having to have a small pump with an IV that's constantly attached to them.
Well, 100%. It's a complete difference when you don't have that attachment. That being said, when it comes to pulmonary hypertension, how does it affect everyday life? And I don't want to ask how serious it is, because we know it's very, very deadly. But how long can someone continue? How sustainable is it to walk around with hypertension? Pulmonary hypertension.
The challenge is it depends on which one of those that the patient has.
Right.
If they have one of the secondary versions, for example, a more reversible cause, if I can fix a valve that was leaky, boy, that really improves their quality of life and almost gets rid of the back pressure entirely. If someone has really bad sleep apnea and they can use a CPAP machine, all of a sudden now they're not getting hypoxic at night, meaning their oxygen levels are dropping to a critical level. And in a sense, they're just in a stress state throughout their entire sleep pattern, when really that should be our time to relax the most.
Right.
Those would be the easy ones to say that if you have a reversible means, man, that really does help improve them. Sometimes we use diuretic medicines where we just get fluid off of them, and just getting some fluid out of the tank helps them feel a whole lot better as well, less to back up. Some patients just have advanced lung disease and they just need to be on oxygen 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And that gives them some significant relief as well. The group with pulmonary arterial hypertension, unfortunately, that group does have a much more guarded diagnosis and prognosis. Unfortunately, their average lifespan is somewhere between probably 4 to 10 years once they're diagnosed. If we catch them earlier, though, we feel strongly that we can help prolong a higher quality of life and better means to get around and do their normal daily activities. Also, we do have the ability, perhaps not in the Baton Rouge area, but we can refer them to transplant centers and try and have them improve that as well, because hopefully the earlier we can get them to that kind of a center, the better off or the higher the chances they can get a transplant.
Incredible stuff. I mean, it really, when you think about the variations that y'all have to deal with and the number of different variables within this one equation, it just to get to the root of the matter and hopefully get something, if it is reversible, get it moving in reverse. It's just it's pretty baffling. Let's talk about somebody who might have some symptoms, whether it be shortness of breath or if there's other symptoms out there. How should they go about getting proper care?
Yeah. As we talked about before, shortness of breath or feeling winded or fatigued earlier than usual that you would expect, I would always suggest somebody to talk, starting at least easily with their primary care physician.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have a pulmonologist, and some people may have a cardiologist, a lung and a heart doctor. And those would be the kinds of people that truly are the ones that are diagnosing this most commonly. I will tell you that I feel so blessed. We've started our own program here in the Baton Rouge area. It's our pulmonary hypertension clinic at Our Lady of the Lake. I feel lucky that I have 2 pulmonary partners. I'm a cardiologist, and I have 2 pulmonary partners that I work in this clinic with. And the beauty of this is that because this diagnosis is challenging, often patients will jump between a pulmonologist to a cardiologist. It takes a while in between those. But in our clinic, you can see both of those specialties on the same day. We're able to do, I would venture to say, 95% of all of our testing we need right then and there on that day as well. And for a number of our patients who travel from out of the city or further in the outlying areas, boy, that's a big time saver for them. Being able to do same day testing as well as seeing two different subspecialists at the same time. You can imagine, as we talked about already, we're able to rule out heart disease or rule out lung disease, and then we can immediately start treatment. And I feel really blessed to be a part of this. Honestly, most of the time you only see centers like this in large academic centers, and we feel really we really feel blessed to have that. I'm Dr. Stephen Briere and Dr. Matthew Berlinger, who are part of the LSU pulmonary team here in the city of Baton Rouge, are my co-pilots in this. And I tell you, we're enjoying doing this, and I feel like we're helping the quality of life for a lot of our patients.
Oh, absolutely. To have a resource in our backyard. I don't know if we in Baton Rouge realize what kind of resources Our Lady of the Lake provides on different levels. This would be one where we're lucky to be where we're at. He is Dr. David Mall with Our Lady of the Lake, is cardiologist with Our Lady of the Lake. We've been talking pulmonary hypertension. Doc, where can folks go if they want to learn more about this?
There are a number of different resources from the National Pulmonary Hypertension Association, but if you would like to have a more detailed, if you really want to be able to see one of us, you're welcome to call us in one of our offices and we can get an appointment scheduled. I wish I could point you towards one of a website or something like that at this time, but we are in the process of trying to build an easier way for patients to find us more directly. But you can reach me at Louisiana Cardiology Associates, and you can find our contact online, or reach out to my pulmonary colleagues in the LSU Pulmonary Clinic that they have as well, and they'll be able to direct you to the Pulmonary Hypertension Clinic, which is separate than our individual clinics themselves. Currently, we're seeing patients once a month, and we're in the process of expanding it to 2 days a month.
He is Dr. David Mall. This has been Medical Monday right here on Talk 107.3 FM, of course, presented by the folks at Our Lady of the Lake. Thank you, Dr. Mall.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I tossed to her. And I was supposed to do Mathern's after Medical Monday, but we ran out of time, so I'm gonna do it on the back end with Will here. This week's forecast could be kind of all over the place. Here to narrow it down, Emma Kate Cowan. Seven 737 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. And yes, we are starting off your morning at 59 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. All right, time to pivot from the medical world to the business world, welcoming in the president and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. That'd be Will Green. Will, how are you, man?
Good morning, Brian. I'm doing great.
Glad to have you on this morning. It's hey, I got a question for you. This is kind of random though. Okay. President's Day is kind of an arbitrarily picked day that we celebrate to take the day off. Would you be in favor of moving President's Day to the day after the Super Bowl?
You know, I'm in favor of any opportunity to extend Super Bowl weekend out a little bit, Brian. And so, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it was. It's not Washington's birthday. It's not Lincoln's birthday. It's somewhere mixed in, and you know, the Super Bowl falls in between those two, basically every year. I think we might have a win-win on our hands here.
Man, I love it, bro. I like the research you've done. You really thought about this. I appreciate that.
I did put a little on that one. The Super Bowl also meant a lot of focus on business. The Louisiana Department of Economic Development posted up a whole Louisiana Now pavilion, and I got to attend it. And I got to tell you, Will, a lot of the business and industry that you represent was, I mean, our best foot was forward all last week. Number one, did you get to make it down there? And number two, what were your takeaways of how we presented ourselves?
Yeah, I did, Brian. And look, I think you and a lot of others I talked to would agree. I mean, you know, the city did an unbelievable job of showcasing not only our best and brightest in the area, but also just the state as a whole. And I mean, when you've got, you know, the potential for about $500 to $600 million in economic impact coming to your state, you obviously want to do that, right? I mean, you want to take an opportunity for more than just football, food, and fellowship. You want to show off all of the resources and the opportunity and the economic thoughts that we're having and you know, all over the state. And so I think LED, with the help of the governor's office and the Super Bowl committee, a lot of the chambers really came together to harness the potential impact of having the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And man, what an amazing job they did. What an amazing experience. You know, I talked to CEOs from local companies to national companies that all bragged on how well run it was, how well done it was. You know, conversations were happening when you get a lot of people in a room together like that. have that great opportunity, I think it was a home run.
As do I. So I went to the Louisiana Now Pavilion on Tuesday when they had their media event. So I didn't get to meet any, with any CEOs. I did get to talk with a bunch of media types, and I was shocked, Will, because every single one of them that I talked to who have been to multiple Super Bowls basically said the same thing. We've never seen another state do this. Nobody else has taken the opportunity for the Super Bowl to sell the state. And I was like, that just simply amazed me that no one has done this from a business standpoint.
Yeah, look, I know I went to a small business forum that put on by one of my members, and I was talking to her, and she was saying that actually the mayor of next year's host city was there and was, obviously taking notes. And so I think that, again, I mean, why waste such a tremendous opportunity when you have CEOs, executives? There was over, I think, 125,000 maybe visitors to the state. Why not show off all of the great things that your city and your state do? And we do a lot of things well in Louisiana. I mean, we really are poised for an innovative breakthrough here in Louisiana with all the opportunity with the data centers and technology. And look, we've been an energy state. We've got some of the, we talk about this all the time, right? Some of the best ports in the country, maybe in the world. Got the Gulf of America, I think is what we're calling it now, and Mississippi River, and incredible amount of manufacturing. And then we've got an agricultural rich state. And so, to have this tool in our toolbox, right, of the Super Bowl coming with all of the tremendous economic impact, again, it was exciting. It was well done. The city, shined. New Orleans, let's be honest, it's had its struggles. But the city was unbelievably, a great host.
Absolutely. Well, and that was actually my next question, was to back things up, not just from LED's perspective, but or from the LED pavilion, but talk about the city as a whole, because they did so much work to get ready for this. And from your perspective, how visible were the fruits of that work?
Oh, I mean, I talked to again, executives all the way to just people that were in town for the game, and everyone talked about how clean and how nice and how just friendly the city was and appeared. And with everything recently that happened, and then again, the past challenges of New Orleans, it was just so nice to be there and to feel like feel like the city, it's got such an alive feel, such a historic feel, again, just the food and the tradition of New Orleans. And it just really felt like they merged the traditions and all the things the city does well with this enormous event of the Super Bowl. And, in order to do that, it's not easy. I mean, it just doesn't happen overnight. The city's been preparing for a long time. And I just think they nailed it. I mean, I was able to ride in the parade on Saturday morning, and just to see the thousands of people having a good time, some that have probably never been to a Mardi Gras type parade like that, especially around a Super Bowl, and all the way into the Innovation Summit and the meetings that were happening at the pavilion. And it was just an amazing weekend.
We got Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, on with us. Okay, so what would be next steps here? How do we follow up on it to see, some let's say trickle down effect of putting all this work in?
Yeah, so obviously, look, we don't want the conversations to stop with this weekend, right? I mean, that was the point. The point was to start the conversation, not to have it and then move on. And so I think we're going to continue to look for ways to attract talent, to grow talent here, to bring in innovation. We've moved our tax climate from the 40s down to the 20s. Our education system is improving. I think you had Mary Beth on maybe last week talking about the report card and how we've made incredible steps in reading and math. And so, we've just got to continue to figure out, all right, what do we need to do to continue to grow our businesses here, obviously, but also to continue to attract more innovation, more growth, more manufacturing. And so I think that the start of those conversations happened today. And I think, industry's taking notice of the things that we're doing at the legislature. And I think, again, I'm excited about the future of Louisiana.
Super Bowl is in the books. We're talking with Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Super Bowl is in the books, so it's time to refocus back on the agenda here. And next up on y'all's calendar would be the annual meeting. For those who missed out on the previous announcements, run it down for us.
Yeah, so that's kind of our Super Bowl, right? Is next Tuesday and Wednesday, and so it kicks off Tuesday night with our reception, and then Wednesday morning, really excited to have Senior Vice President of API coming in to talk with Tyler Gray, who is our DNR Secretary. They'll have an energy panel to kind of talk about what's going on globally with the new administration. What can we expect here locally? I know Tyler was on Secretary Gray was on a panel talking about energy and infrastructure and how can we continue to grow that this past weekend. And so I think there's a lot of exciting developments there that they're going to talk about at our morning panel. And then we'll roll into our annual meeting luncheon with Charles Payne. And we got to speak with Charles a little bit last week, and he's just a smart, innovative guy that just knows so much about the economy. And so he's going to talk about, look, here's what he sees the economy going and the different diversifications and and then also again, how can we take advantage of that based on all that we have going on in Louisiana. And so just really excited about going from the Super Bowl into our annual meeting, just to keep all these conversations going.
So the annual meeting, like you said, reception on the 18th, and then the meeting itself on the 19th. This year, I don't know if it's the title or the theme, but we're hearing Full Throttle. What goes into that? What brought us to that name?
Yeah, so I mean, again, we've talked about all the momentum, right? I mean, we overcoming the status quo and winning, and we immediately went in last year with from special sessions all the way to the regular session on education, on workforce development, improving our tax climate. And so, we want to keep the pedal to the floor, right? We want to go full throttle after investment and growth and really move Louisiana forward. And so we feel like we've got the momentum there. We just need to keep our foot on the gas.
And this ties us back into the LA Driven plan. I'm sure there will be updates on that front as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the important things, obviously, with the strategic plan is always benchmarking, right? Seeing, okay, here's the successes we've had. What needs to go next? Do we need to pivot? And so we'll also be, talking about the LA Driven strategic plan, introducing our first, it's about a year old now, kind of introducing our first benchmark report on the LA Driven plan. So really excited to highlight the wins, to kind of see where we need to go next. And then also to show people sort of what's been updated and what the rest of the country is doing. Because look, as we're making these improvements, Brian, a lot of other states are too.
Yeah.
And so, these are, the other states aren't standing still, and we can't either.
No, absolutely not. And that's going to be that is where the rubber will meet the road, if I can keep with the Driven puns, is because we have a tendency in the state to do things once and then assume that they're done. It's the follow through here that's going to be important.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot, Brian, right? It's like you can't get a big win and put your feet up and, celebrate too much. I mean, because again, other states are moving along too. And what we talk to states like Florida and North Carolina that have done transformative policy maneuvers to get them to be one of the best states to do business. They tell us you got to keep doing it. You can't do it 1 year. It's a 2, 3, 4, 5 year, process. You got to keep working. You got to keep changing. You got to keep innovating, coming up with policies. And so that's what we want to do here in Louisiana. We don't want to be, let's make some changes in one session and sit back and kind of rest on our success. We've got to always be thinking about, what's the next thing that we can do to help move Louisiana forward.
The event, well, you can find more at labi.org/events, labi.org/events. I'm trusting that I'm good to go to set up my show out there, huh?
Brian, you're always welcome, man. That's a highlight of the annual meeting, having you there on site, live, visiting, and so, man, I absolutely hope to see you there.
Likewise, man. It is on my calendar the second it's on y'all's calendar. I'm looking forward to it. He's Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. We'll talk to you next week.
Brian, have a great week. See you.
You do the same. It's coming up on 750 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. All right, we're going to take a quick break to check your money now. We will check traffic when we come back from that break. You heard the story in news right there about the Real ID. We're going to dig in on that when we come back. Right now, here is your, oh, don't forget, we got ABC News coming up at the top of the hour. Right now, here's your money now on Talk 107.3. That was a really good segment. This just in. Mondays with the mayor has been canceled for today. They promised to have it on next week. No. Yeah. Or the week before. They've only done 3 since the beginning of the year. And by the way, if I were his opponent, I would be saying that every damn day. May. The May ballot. But if I were his opponent, I would be saying that shit every day. I would be saying he promises to do this show every week, and then this is what you're going to get from your promises. All right, I've got those LRN cuts here. 756 Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Thanks again to Will Green for hopping on board that last segment. Good stuff. Talk about economic follow through when it comes to the Super Bowl. Hey, before we dig in on this Real ID topic, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's, your Mardi Gras headquarters, y'all. If you've not yet brought a king cake to work, fix that this week. I don't care if you haven't gotten the baby yet. It's your turn. Stop by Mathern's on Nicholson Drive. When you walk through the front door, you're going to see the giant Mardi Gras tree. Yes, it's like a Christmas tree, but purple, green, and gold. Underneath that tree, the entire king cake display is out there. Whether you like it traditional, whether you like it filled, no matter what you want it filled with, they've got the strawberry cream cheese, they've got the praline, they've got the Bavarian cream, they've got it all. Or if you want to go full on fancy, do the Cookie Monster, do the wedding cake. They've got you covered. Mathern's is your king cake headquarters for sure. Oh, and then don't forget, once it comes time for the parades to roll, the downtown location's right on the route. They're in between 3rd and 4th Street. The front of the store's on 3rd, back to stores on 4th. That back entrance to Mathern's is actually when the parade turns off 4th onto Main. That's right by the back entrance. So when you're parading a little bit, if you forgot something, they've got you covered. If you ran out of something, they've got you covered. And don't forget, if you download the Mathern's Rewards app, you can be saving money every day with the specials that they've got and the rewards that you earn every time you shop. This week, New York strip steaks are $9.99 a pound, chicken breast fillets $2.99 a pound, and the deal of the week is the DiGiorno's pizzas are $2.99 a piece. So check them out at Mathern's. Now, you heard the story in news at the bottom of the hour. The Real ID enforcement date is approaching. Office of Motor Vehicles is urging residents to prepare by May 7th. Public Affairs Director Matthew Boudreau says visit expresslane.org for a Real ID checklist of what drivers are going to need. Cut 7, please. Yeah. No, from LRN. Yeah. No worries. The I know this isn't going to come as a shock because they've been talking about moving to the Real ID for some time now, but it's one of those things where when it's finally upon you, it's, oh my goodness, I got to go do this. So here's talking about the checklist of what you need.
For most people, that's either a birth certificate or passport and 2 pieces of mail at your current address.
The OMV encourages residents to upgrade to a Real ID when renewing their license or by applying for a duplicate. Boudreau says to avoid a last-minute rush, he advises residents to go ahead and act early. Cut 8.
We do expect an influx of people coming to our offices as well as our private tag offices. So, you could potentially beat that rush if you act now.
I'll admit, when I was in line, so I flew to Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago, and when I'm in line for TSA, I started running that checklist in my head saying, oh, did I need it by now? Am I too late? Am I going to get left out of this plane because I don't have my Real ID yet? And sure enough, as I got up there, I found out it wasn't until May that they're really cracking it down. But man, that rattled in my head real quick. So do not wait until the last second to be sure. Boudreau says Louisiana's digital ID, LA Wallet, is accepted at TSA checkpoints, but does require that Real ID compliant credential to go along with it. Cut 9.
If you have a Real ID in your wallet, your Real ID on LA Wallet is going to appear there. It's going to have that gold circle with that white star.
So after May 7th, what happens then? Well, if you want to fly domestically, you're going to need either a Real ID or a passport, which basically means if you want to fly at all, you will be X'd out of flying. You will be grounded without a Real ID. Also, you're going to need a Real ID to enter many federal buildings as well. So, I mean, it feels natural to do it when you upgrade your driver's license. It feels kind of strange that you would have a deadline set, like from the day they set the deadline through the day of enforcement. that everybody wouldn't have made their way through the DMV or the OMV on their own at some point. Like there is a window there where you need to go in, your driver's license is not expired, and you do need to upgrade. So May 7th, the countdown is on. Hour 3 is coming up next. Here's news. Do we have some this day in history? Yes. Oh. Auto. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Cade Wasan filling in. John's down for the count. Your boy got the flu. The flu. Busy third hour coming your way right now. We got Moon Griffon hopping on board in just a little bit. We'll talk with Moon. Catch his take on the Super Bowl and the surrounding events. And then looking forward to this conversation. Why does Baton Rouge lag when it comes to innovation? With the resources we have at our fingertips. Why did I just Italian that? I'm sorry, if you're listening on the radio, I'm like, I got hand gestures going on. With the resources we have at our fingertips, why do we lag when compared to, and I'm not even talking about cities in other states, Lafayette, New Orleans. When it comes to innovation, we're a little bit behind the eight ball there. Barrett Blondo from Falaya Real Estate put up a post on LinkedIn that we'll read it back in its entirety, but it sparks a conversation that we need to be having. We'll talk with him at 8:35. Right now, though, time to roll back the clock. Time for this day in history. Hey, Cade.
Yep.
Hey, before we get into this day in history, I tell you, last week on Media Row, I ran into Devin Snow.
Yeah.
The Hold the Mayo guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell him the whole story about why he's in my third hour open. He was like, remembered it like it was yesterday. It was after LSU won the women's national basketball championship.
Yeah, he was in Baton Rouge.
Yep, came to Elsie's Plate and Pie for their red beans. We ended up talking more about when he had red beans up at Tony's Seafood.
Oh,
it was below par.
RB&R day is today.
Yep, yes it is.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's one of the many random instances on radio or Media Row, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
What were your favorite takeaways
from the row?
Yeah.
There's a lot more, and I guess that's why they call it media. There was a lot more digital media than there was traditional radio.
Yes.
For Radio Row. We were right next to probably some podcasters. I don't know where they were.
The guys with the yellow microphones?
No, those guys were from Spain.
Oh.
And then the neighboring other group was from Brazil.
Okay.
And then the ones to our immediate left was doing this massive podcasting, and a lot more stations were doing that or taping to play back later in some form or fashion.
Right.
It's a little overwhelming when you're walking around and 1 minute you're just, pushing a couple of buttons, then you turn to your right and there's Joe Montana. It's just like that stuff still blows me away.
Yeah.
You know,
big time. A couple of them on Media Row kind of took me by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
The Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
What's the point of going on the road if you're going to build your entire, like a recreation of your entire set while you're there?
He had a massive set, stage, whatever you want to call it. It took multiple days to put together, and they were there Wednesday through Friday. So
right, but
that's all his call.
If you're watching the Pat McAfee show on TV,
yeah,
you can't tell you're in New Orleans.
No.
The way he built the set out, it looked exactly like his home set, with the exception of there was a Louisiana license plate on the wall. Whoopity-doo.
He had Jeff Landry.
He did have Jeff Landry on.
Yeah. All right. So this
Who
day in
said he was
history-
1-0 versus PETA?
I did hear that. Oh boy.
That was good.
Yeah, look, pardon me for not knowing this, but is this year 60? It says St. Paul thought to have been shipwrecked at Malta.
In the year 60?
That's how it's listed.
All right.
I
Sounds
could be
about it
wrong.
sounds about right.
I'm probably not reading that correctly, but either way, that happened in this day in history.
All right.
1720, Edmund Halley is appointed as the second astronomer royal at the Greenwich Observatory. Feels like a really interesting and important title.
Yeah, but you're an astronomer in 1720. I
Mhm.
mean, were the telescopes really that great?
I don't know. I saw more stars at the Media Row.
Hey, there it is.
1763, the Treaty of Paris ends the French-Indian War. France agrees to surrender Canada to Great Britain, and now it's going to become a state of the United States.
Yes.
Good luck, Canada.
Nice.
Let's see. 1952, India holds its first general election. Prime Minister Nehru remains in power.
Yep.
As far as TV and film goes, in 1989, WWF, now WWE, I believe, admits pro wrestling is an exhibition and not a sport in a New Jersey court to gain deregulation.
Yes.
So wait, it's not.
No. Surprisingly
match
enough,
was,
surprisingly enough, they've got a lot of predetermined things heading into a game.
19
which a lot of people say about the NFL.
Yeah,
but
well,
I tell you what, the
it
NFL was
started
so
off a little-
scripted.
a little-
I don't know.
1942, Glenn Miller and his orchestra are awarded the first ever gold recording for selling 1 million copies of Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
I only know one Glenn Miller song. Is it the, I'm talking about the one that everybody. Yeah.
Yo.
In sports,
In the mood. That's the name.
In the mood. Yeah. 1920, baseball outlaws all pitches involving tampering with ball.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Little Joe Negro action.
Let's see. 1926, building of Olympic Stadium, Amsterdam begins.
All right.
And 1940, U.S. female figure skating championship was won by Joan Tozer.
Okay.
As far as birthdays go, it's not very many today. I will point out a couple. Emma Roberts is 33.
Okay.
Actress. Also, actress Elizabeth Banks is 50 today.
Elizabeth Banks is 50?
Elizabeth Banks is 50 today.
Wow.
A former bassist, of course, tragically passed in an accident back in 1986. Former bassist of Metallica, Cliff Burton, birthday today. And looking along, there's a lot of. Oh, here we go. Robert Wagner, movie actor, 94 years old today. Bob Iger, the top man at the Mouse Company.
Yes.
Happy birthday. I'll be spending a lot of money with your company in a couple of weeks.
Oh, you going?
Yeah.
Nice.
As far as national days,
I got a couple more birthdays
Okay.
here, man.
Please do pass them along.
Sticking with or moving into the world of media here. How about happy birthday to Glenn Beck?
Yeah.
Glenn Beck was born on this day in 1964. How about George Stephanopoulos, born on this day in 1961? Whoa. And Jim Cramer.
Hey.
Yeah.
You got to ask Moon about George Stephanopoulos. He's a big fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Jim Cramer, born on this day in 1955, and John Calipari in 59.
Sold. Today's national days: National Football Hangover Day.
Fair. Oh, wait. We had a couple deaths to touch on, though.
Oh.
Shirley Temple, Arthur Miller. Yep.
Shirley Temple. I remember as a kid, my grandma would put on some of those movies when we were young, and then I found out later she was there was a drink named after her.
There was, yeah.
There
sure was. Yeah. So
National Home Warranty Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Football Hangover Day kind of covers it, though, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean,
National Cream Cheese Brownie Day. National Umbrella Day.
Losing me. You're losing me,
National
man.
Clean Out Your Computer Day.
Well, we could save that one for a cup of tech gumbo on Thursday.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, football hangover day gets it though, and then
You know, you're not the first person to bring up the idea. I will say I haven't heard it around here, but I've heard that discussion of making the
Okay,
President's Day
so-
lined up with that.
yeah, I haven't heard it in terms of President's Day. But I've heard, why don't we make the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday? To which I would argue, I'm not making the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday until we make Election Day a national holiday. The day we vote for president, we should have the day off. And
Fair
that,
enough.
yeah. So until that happens, we shouldn't get our hangover day off until we have our civic duty day off. That to me is that feels like a no-brainer right there in level of importance. But it just so happens that that President's Day is kind of an arbitrary date. You can land it anywhere within that if you're between Washington's birthday and Lincoln's birthday, I think you're doing fine.
And I think that's a selfless ask because on both occasions, there's no way you and I are not working on Election Day, even though we'd give off people for Election Day.
Yeah.
And there's no way this place would be closed the day after the Super Bowl.
Same, yeah.
So
no.
it's a general for those out there.
Yeah, no.
The idea that-
We're givers here.
Yeah,
This is not coming from our own selfish wanting a day off. Although we might bank a personal day because of it. But I think it's a good idea. I would float that. I would run with that regularly. We got to take. Oh wait, before we take our break, got to remind you about the folks over at PF Chang's. If you don't have your lunch plans mapped out just yet, maybe give PF Chang's a look, and maybe give a look at the Golden Feast. It is a nod to Asian culinary tradition. Get your fried chicken and bubbles. The new fried chicken menu, by the way, inspired by South Korea's celebration of the season's first snowfall, which marks a special cultural moment symbolizing renewal, romance, and connection. It is celebrated by gathering with friends and family to enjoy fried chicken and a glass of bubbly, and it is on the PF Chang's menu, and it is beyond phenomenal. Oh, the level of Asian spices, it gives you that little bit of pop when you're having the chicken. And if you get the sauce flight, you go everywhere from a sweet sauce to savory, all the way to a little bit of fire underneath. Check them out in Town Center off Corporate Boulevard. Look for the giant golden horse. It's PF Chang's. Quick break. We got Moon next. You got Moon's number? Ooh, share contact. Done. Cade. Oh. Oh. $8:19, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. Time for us to check in as we do every Monday with our good buddy Moon Griffon. You catch him here and statewide. Weekdays 9 to 11. Moon, how are you, brother?
great, man. I'm still a little stunned. How come when a city wins the Super Bowl, they try to burn down the police cars and break the lights and almost riot? And I'm going, holy cow, you just won. Just be happy. I never have understood that part.
Me neither. And the thing of it is, the mayor of Philadelphia actually held a press conference asking people not to do that. Like when you know it's coming, you hold a press conference, and obviously no one's going to pay attention to your press conference, or at least not heed your advice on that end. I
don't get it. Maybe I'm not bright enough to get it. You can explain it to me. You can understand it for me. I think celebration, happy, high-fiving with your buds, having a good time is all good. But why do you want to just, break property and beat that? I don't understand it.
No.
Celebrations are good. I understand stuff. People get excited. I get it. But not that. I'll never understand that. But
no, same.
Anyway, the other thing I was going to tell you was I want a little shout out today to and I'm going to be honest with Governor Landry, Liz Murrow, and our police officers and people in uniform from National Guard to the feds. They went in and did a heck of a job with security. Trump's coming in. President Trump came in. It looks like it went off without a hitch, as far as we know. And I started reading they sent another almost 1,000 people from the federal government, Homeland Security, and all that. So anyway, they did a good job of protecting people in the city. And I think a little kudos need to go out to them, because I do not think after what happened New Year's Day or New Year's morning that I don't know if New Orleans could handle that. I know you can go, well, in the past they have, and I won't argue with that, but this is a different deal. And I'm just glad for them and the people that got to go, and for the city that nothing went wrong.
No, 100%. And I can tell you, I was down there on Tuesday. I was down there on Thursday. Never felt safer, Moon. Never felt safer. It was wherever you turned, you saw a pair or three state troopers, just the pairs of state troopers walking throughout Media Row, walking up and down through the Super Bowl experience. And I was in the convention center area, so I was nowhere near the stadium. I was nowhere near the Superdome, but I could tell you in the convention center area, you felt the warm embrace of a present but not overbearing security.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, I actually went down. I had a couple. I saw you Wednesday, and I went in.
Yep.
And I stayed in the St. Charles area region, and even there, Brian, which is not right on top of that, but it ain't far either. There was security, police everywhere. Because I went up and down the road, I rode with a client, all that stuff. So I couldn't imagine how good it was over where you were, because you were a lot closer. But it was a present. But everybody involved in it, and even local law enforcement doing their job. I'm just glad everything went off. When the president said he was coming in, security heightened again. But that went well. So, and by the way, when they showed him, they cheered for it. Not so much for Taylor Swift, but a lot more for President Trump.
I really wish our entire lives weren't wrapped around who somebody is affiliated with or speaks about. It's wait, you don't?
No, I said I know.
Okay. I thought you said I don't.
I'm not pro Swift, anti Swift. I'm not into it. I wouldn't declare it as Taylor Swift, and I'm over with it. But you're right. But some people, man. But they said it. And I wasn't there. That a lot of people hate winners. Kansas City's been a winner. They've been dominant.
Yep.
So when you fill up a 60, 70,000, how many people can get in there?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a lot of people that don't like the Chiefs. Then they associate the Chiefs with Taylor Swift, Kelsey, all that stuff, all that soap opera. And so that's what that's about more than anything else. And I don't care if you like Swift or not. It's not even a point.
Well,
and I think that's kind of what you're saying, that while we get in all that, I have no idea.
But has it always been like that, where people hate the winner? Because look, Kansas City's not the first dynasty in football. I mean, you had the 49ers in the 80s. You had in the 90s, the Cowboys were America's team. Back in the 70s, you had the Steelers. I don't remember the level of vitriol towards any of those quote unquote dynasties just because they won.
I think the big part of that, Brian, and you may tell me I'm wrong, I don't think we will. It may not be the only part, but the big part is social media. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody can put it out now. That's the way we communicate. And I think that's why you see that. I talk to my brother a lot, and we've always been amazed. But people are great. They do great things. They really ought to be celebrated. What we have now is when people are doing great, oh, I'm sticking them, I'm tired of them, we'll go beat them.
Right.
Let's go beat them then. Well, Philadelphia beat them.
Yep.
So we ain't got to listen to all that anymore. But the point being is, I don't know what it is about people. When somebody starts doing really well, it's almost people start hating them. And I think we ought to find out why they're doing great so we ourselves can be better at what we do. That's just my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. It's if you want to be the man, beat the man. That's the way it's always been.
Philadelphia beat them, and they beat them pretty handily. So it happened. They did their job. They got sick of hearing how great Kansas City and three-peat and all that. You know what's funny? Kansas City might win 8 more Super Bowls. I have no idea to know that. Kansas City may not get back to the Super Bowl for 10 years. They may be back next year. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows about injuries and hurt and what happens to people. So you got to enjoy that moment because you don't know if it's going to come back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Pivoting now to what's ahead here. I mean, obviously, in locally, we turn our calendars towards Mardi Gras.
Sure.
After that, though, will be a fiscal session. Moon, I'm hearing more and more from folks that we just have to have a wait and see on what's really going to be hot in the session until after we go to the polls to vote on whether or not we're going to open things up for what we can cut within the budget.
Yeah, and I think you're probably hearing right, Brian, because that vote in March, it's a big vote so they can keep on moving forward on things they want to do. So I don't know if I was going to ask you, do you hear of anybody that's going to go against the amendment that Jeff and them got out that they're trying to get passed? Because I don't know if anybody that's going to try to beat it up or go against it. Because I'm going to tell you what I find in these votes where you have not many people going to oppose, and let's be blunt, not many people going to go.
Right.
If you don't have paid opposition, then that thing's going to fly through with no problem.
Okay.
You got to have and I haven't heard anybody out there that's going to try to stop that.
So speaking, you said the magic words right there, paid opposition. And
Yep.
Moon, I've been paying attention. I haven't heard paid on either side. Like I'm really shocked that there's been no money in this election trying to make sure people either show up to vote for or tell them the reasons why they should vote against. I haven't heard any of it. And yeah, when left to your own devices for a low turnout election, you're going to see where the passion was to get this passed is what's going to carry the day at the polls.
Yeah, I just look, man. Next month, you just may not have nothing but the amendments on the ballot just about everywhere. So what's going to get people out is somebody telling them a message, sending out a message, saying you need to go vote because of this. And you can lose an election by not getting aggressive. I think it's coming, Ryan. We're still over a month away, I think, before that election.
Yeah.
I do think you'll have a run and blitz the last 2-3 weeks. But I'm just wondering if there's going to be two sides of the equation spending money. That's the part I didn't know. And by the way, I got to give credit. None guesses still slamming LaToya for what happens in the French Quarter and what goes on. And I thought that was kind of odd. He was on an interview the other day and going after LaToya. But I will tell you this, New Orleans should be proud of what they put out, but they've always done well with the Super Bowl and hospitality because that's what they do.
Built to host. That was the motto all last week. Built to host. And yeah, they can definitely take a bow today as the Super Bowl is handed off. But in fact, I believe that press conference is going on right now where Gail Benson hands off the Super Bowl to the next host city.
Wow. Well, the other thing out there too is that, Governor Landry put together a task force.
Yeah.
And the task force is to try to cut government. And there's a big fight about, they need to be open. They need to be open to the books, let everybody see what they're doing. Jeff don't want to do that. Now, look, whatever the law says, Brian, that's what I'm for. If he said open it up, open it up. But I will say this, it doesn't matter. And this is why it doesn't matter. They have no power. They have no power to do anything. And if something's going to be done to cut, it's going to come from the governor and the House and the Senate. It doesn't matter what a task force says. We watch these groups give us studies over and over again, like the bridge in Baton Rouge, the new bridge. Can you tell me where that new bridge is? But there's been task force out there for 30, 40 years saying where we ought to put the new bridge.
I can tell you one of three locations.
Matter.
Yeah.
Huh?
I can tell you one of 3 locations, and that's where we're at right now. Holding at 3.
Down to 3 after 40 years. Well, that's getting bad. That's progress.
It doesn't get me across the river any faster, but yeah.
Well, no, the funny thing about it is when I lived in Monroe, they got an interstate and they got 2 other bridges. And when I moved there, I was 18. I'm 63. Now, I left 10 years ago. I was at 35 years. All I heard about was a new bridge. You know, they still hadn't figured out where they're going to put it at.
Hey, Moon, we've stopped talking about the loop. We don't even bother to bring up a loop anymore. We're to the point now where, okay, you know what? Can we get a bridge? We've negotiated ourselves down to just that at this point. And the meanwhile, you got a show coming up in half an hour. I always appreciate you hopping on board, man.
All right, Brian. God bless you.
You too. We get to John, and here we go. All right, we got news, traffic, weather. When we come back, let's talk about it. Innovation in Baton Rouge. Why is it lagging? That's next. What'd you say, Barrett? Doing well. Is it like the best foot forward? Does it come across as desperate? Like, what's your takeaway? But all I had was media members, and every single one of them that I talked to said the same thing. I'm floored. No other city that hosts a Super Bowl has ever tried to do this before. Like, this is outside the box thinking. This is where everyone should be.
Right.
And then, who was I talking to? Oh, Will Green from LABI this morning was saying that so the next hosts of the Super Bowl, they had scouts in to kind of look and see what all we do, and they were really taken aback by that. So you could expect it to now be a thing.
Yeah, why not leverage all those people there? All the corporations are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not the state?
Exactly. So we gotta we're in news right now. We'll do a quick traffic. I'll do a weather, and then we'll come in. And I've cleared out. We're gonna have a break at 8:50, and then like one little segment on the back end.
Yeah.
But I cleared out both segments because I have a feeling this is gonna be fun.
Sounds good. Did you watch the game?
Oh, of course.
That's not much of a game there.
No, it wasn't. And I don't know, everybody said going in it was gonna be a nail biter. It's like, is the Super Bowl ever a nail biter?
We've had a couple, but not many. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's rare.
The 28-3 game when New England came back.
Right. That's what I was thinking
Atlanta.
of. I was like, this would top that. It was 28. Nothing,
Yeah.
I think
34-0 at one
34-0. Yeah, that was second half. When they scored that touchdown, I was like, it's over. There's no way someone's scoring 35 unanswered points. I don't believe. That would be rare. I don't think I've ever seen that.
And then I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but I'm pretty sure every single field goal that Jake Elliott kicked there was a penalty and he had to kick it again.
Right. Yeah.
So I think he was like 4 for 4 on the night, but he was really 8 for 8. Like, I mean, push it back 5 yards, do it again. Push it back 5 yards, do it again. How's things over in Innovation Park?
That's all right. Nexus or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's basically my office is just a podcast room now. I mean, it's all
Really?
that's really all it is.
Okay.
It's cheap real estate,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is at this point.
Okay.
Wi-Fi, electricity, and a great place for a studio because there's no windows.
Oh, all right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
You
sure
wouldn't
do.
know it was a pretty day outside.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about being stuck in a old mall.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of windows in malls.
No. I think that's by design, too.
It is. Stay in.
You have you have skylights, so you don't have to have an electric bill.
Yeah.
And then no windows, so you're not conscious of how long you've been in there.
Been in there.
Like at a casino.
It's like a casino. But if you got to work there every day, that's a little depressing.
Yeah, like going to a matinee movie and you come out and it's nighttime. The hell happened?
If you're doing a studio, it's not bad. But do you go to Mardi Gras at all?
Yes.
You into it? Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go to Orion and Artemis up here, and we'll hit a couple in New Orleans as well. We try to go to Rex on Mardi Gras Day as well. If you have not yet gotten sick, this forecast says hold my beer. Cloudy today with a high of 71. Overnight low only gets down to 62. Tomorrow we're going to top out at 80. Overnight low of 64. Now, also overnight Tuesday into Wednesday is when the chance of rain kicks in. 60% chance of rain tomorrow, 80% chance of rain on Wednesday. Wednesday's high 78 with an overnight low of 48. Thursday and Friday, we're going to top out in the mid 60s as that rain kind of goes away on Thursday, but comes right back on Friday into Saturday. Really, Saturday into Sunday is when you're going to see the bulk of the rain. So we'll go from a high on Friday of 67 to a high on Saturday of 82 to a high on Sunday of 57. Oh, it's all over the map, y'all. We're going to stay at 57 on Sunday and Monday before getting back into the 70s for Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, it's cloudy and 58 in downtown Baton Rouge. .38 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. I need just a moment to read to you from a LinkedIn post, if we could. Just personal privilege, if we could. Baton Rouge, it's time to wake up. This graphic is very telling. By the way, there's a graphic showing Louisiana's innovation from a recent meeting. This graphic is very telling. Baton Rouge is not included in the upcoming events pushed by Louisiana Innovation. While Lafayette, New Orleans, and Shreveport are making bold moves in innovation, we're falling behind, and there's no reason we should be. We have LSU and Southern, two powerhouse universities. We have industry giants like Exxon, Shell, and BASF. We have homegrown success stories like Raising Cane's and Walk-Ons, and to top it off, the state capitol. The decisions that shape Louisiana's future are right here. So why aren't we leading the charge? The problem isn't a lack of talent, resources, or opportunity. It's a lack of alignment. Instead of pooling resources to create a true flagship hub for innovation, we're stuck fighting over budgets, territory, and outdated buildings. This isn't about one entity. It's about what's best for the entire capital region. Baton Rouge deserves to be the driving force behind Louisiana's innovation economy, but that won't happen unless we come together. The time for small thinking is over. The time for bold action is now. Let's build the future together. That post was put up by Barrett Blondo from Falaya Real Estate, who's in studio with us now. Barrett, how are you, man?
Doing well, man. How about you?
Doing very well as well. So this post was generated by actually an event surrounding the Super Bowl.
That's right. Yeah, it was Louisiana Innovation Louisiana Now, they hosted a innovation summit by the governor and LED down in New Orleans on Thursday.
Let's start here. What is how would you define innovation? Because this could mean a number of different things. So I don't want to pigeonhole it into one thing, but give us a best descriptor for us.
Just real quickly, it's just transforming a sector or pushing things forward extremely fastly through either technology or just changing the way things are done drastically.
Okay, so let's start with transforming a sector. So it doesn't mean when we say innovation, you're not narrowed down to one particular category. This could fall under any field that's out there.
That's correct. Anything.
What did you take away from the meeting, from that presentation down there, that our neighboring cities are doing that we're not?
So, they have a lot of different things that they're doing. They are pooling resources, creating a buzz about their regions. The Opportunity Machine in Lafayette has transformed a building downtown and has had awesome successes. And Waiter was based out of Lafayette at one point.
Yep.
And so they've had a lot of transformative things that have come out of that. They had a success and they leveraged that into a new building and got a lot of people excited in the Lafayette area. Idea Village in New Orleans has also, in the shop at the CAC, a really beautiful building. It's just creates people want to stay in those locations and create awesome things.
And you mentioned Shreveport as well in there.
That's right. Yeah.
And believe it or not, I've heard a lot of great things coming out of Monroe as well. I don't know if you would say Baton Rouge is falling behind Monroe, but they definitely are getting some decent alignment.
Well, obviously LED's big push with the Meta $10 billion investment in the data center up there in North Louisiana is huge. LED also just launched a $50 million growth fund, an AI research fund, to kind of leverage that across the state of Louisiana. They announced that on Thursday at the event.
I mean, and then, we have the Meta data center going in east of Monroe, and then another data center is going to be built in West Feliciana Parish. So is that a spark towards maybe Baton Rouge getting together to get in line for an individual sector?
Yeah, obviously AI is going to disrupt a lot of things. We are already using it at Falaya Real Estate to help you move through a real estate transaction. I think it's going to be in every single sector. And so innovation in part is going to be AI in the future. There's no doubt about it.
All right, we got to pause on this discussion to talk about Falaya for a quick second, because it's going to bring back around the discussion once we understand that. For those who don't know you, what's Falaya Real Estate?
So we're a real estate app that helps sellers sell fast and save thousands. We allow you to list on the MLS for a low flat fee. We give you technology that moves you from listing to close so that you can do it yourself and save thousands on commissions.
I hate the word disruptor because I feel like it's overused, but would you consider Falaya to be a disruptor in the real estate world?
I think, yes, we are disrupting things and the way things are done. We're trying to make them real efficient by using technology and a transaction team to move you from listed to sold very efficiently. There always will be a need for realtors, so it's not a full disruption. It's, think of E-Trade. E-Trade with stockbrokers. You can trade your own stocks, but there's a lot of stockbrokers still out there. So it's not a full disruption, but there's a large segment of the market that wants to do it themselves and save thousands.
Oh, well, yes. And the percentage of for sale by owner who eventually give up and hand off to a realtor is still a remarkably high number. Falaya is looking for that piece that want to dive in, and maybe instead of it being 80% handoff, knock that down to 60, and everybody's coming out on a winner.
That's right.
Okay, now that being said, that's who you are. Now let's talk about where you are, because that's where the conversation gets back to the innovation here. Y'all are located over there in the Bon Carré Business Center, or the Tech Park.
That's right. We're at the Tech Park there. Been tenants for 4 years now.
And when you look around at your neighbors, what are you seeing in the Tech Park, or what are you not seeing?
So, the Tech Park has a lot of great people working there, and they're trying to push it forward. But, the building is located off of Florida Boulevard. It's in the old mall. There's not a lot of windows. It's a little outdated. It doesn't scream innovation. It screams old mall, right? And so it's hard to get the young talent to want to stay and build there, right?
Okay.
Like when I go to these big cities like Austin, Atlanta, Chattanooga, Birmingham, even these smaller markets that are our size, they're doing these amazing places that make the youth want to stay here, create and build great things in the city. I see too often the tenants that were there with me, they leave and go to New Orleans. They leave and go to Houston. They leave and go to Austin because they want that. They want that pooling of talent.
But in order to have the pooling of talent, and a lot of the centers around Nexus, Louisiana, which Stephen Lloyd did a fantastic job, but carried as far as he could.
For sure.
And you're going to get into other arguments, like political arguments, putting their nose where it shouldn't be.
Right.
But that being said, does it have to be new? Because there are markets out there where they revamp old buildings that are just gorgeous.
That's right.
And turn them into something new as well. Is it something to be said for? It's not necessarily that it's not new. It's that it's the old mall.
No. That's it. If you look at Opportunity Machine in Lafayette, they took an old bar and DJ bar and they turned it in and revamped it and regutted it, and now it's got suites and 3 floors. So it was completely what you did, and it was an opportunity zone. So they got that as well. So yes, revamping old buildings. I would love to see something downtown with that.
Is downtown still a key here? Because I feel like it is.
I think downtown needs to have some attractions that are pulling people down here, whether that's a new event center or a tech innovation hub. You've got the water campus that's starting to build it out. We've made strides, but I think it needs to be built even more and more.
Let's go back. We're talking with Barrett Blondo from Falaya Real Estate about our lack of innovation here in Baton Rouge. You mentioned water campus. In the last pitch competition, there was Leroy's Lip Smack and Lemonade was in there.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, when I first heard that Leroy's Lip Smack and Lemonade was in there, felt kind of dejected. I was like, is this what we're putting forward?
Yeah.
We're putting forward a literal lemonade stand for an entrepreneur startup. And then once you heard about their business savvy and about how good they are at what they do, it became so much more than that, to where I started thinking of them more as like a brand that Baton Rouge can build off of.
I mean, think about our successes. You've got Canes and walk-ons. There's nothing wrong with a product or a service that could transform and go national.
Yeah.
We cannot just be hummed in on a mobile app or a web app that's like Falaya or something like that. It definitely needs stuff like that. We've seen successes in New Orleans with products that have gone national and been shown on the Today Show. So you don't need to get hummed in on just technology.
Well, so to the comparison I was going to make was, I was thinking, once I heard their presentation, once I saw how they would scale up, once I saw, the investment they made in themselves, I kind of started thinking of them as like the Marucci of lemonade.
Right.
I mean, we have that brand here in Baton Rouge, and it is world renowned. And it's one of those ones where everybody from around the world knows it better than if you're in the, everybody in Major League Baseball knows Marucci. Everybody in college baseball knows Marucci. It's one of those ones where I don't think we fully appreciate what we have. Is that part of the problem, not having the number of cheerleaders we need?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to be able to echo things. Obviously in the beverage space, it's real competitive.
Yeah.
I would say for Leroy's, it's real competitive about that shelf space. I worked for Coca-Cola for a little while, and it's a fight over the SKUs on every line item. So it definitely is hard. That's why people gravitate towards software, because you can sell it fast and expand quickly, and there's no restrictions, right? So there is some friction there, but you shouldn't stop. The friction shouldn't stop you. If the friction is going to stop you as an entrepreneur, you might as well just not even start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, but working through the friction is where we're going to go when we come back. We got a break coming up in just a minute. When we come back, that's where we're going to pick it up. We got Barrett Blondo from Falaya Real Estate, and was talking about our lack of innovation. I would say probably lack of coordination as well here in Baton Rouge. Before we take that break, got to remind you about the folks over at Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Look, if you're planning your family vacation right now and you're flying somewhere, flybtr.com. That's where you're going to want to start, and here's why. When you take into account the entire experience of flying, flybtr.com and the Baton Rouge Metro Airport are your answer. You don't need to drive an hour down the road to New Orleans, or it's actually, when you take into account getting off of the new exit and whatnot, it's actually a little over an hour. Take into account the parking, take into account the out of time, take into account the TSA maze, and then bring it back home to Baton Rouge and take into account the level of service that you're going to get from the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. If you're going to DC, they've got a direct flight every day. Leaves out at 7 o'clock in the morning, comes back in the evening. Flybtr.com is the website for the whole thing. Flybtr2dc.com if you wanted that that flight specifically. But check them out if you're planning your vacation right now. Flybtr.com. All right, we are due up for a quick break. Gonna check your money now. We'll check traffic, and then we'll continue the conversation next with Barrett Blondo from Falaya Real Estate right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Oof. Boy, that's getting further and further off. That clock right there is off by more than a minute.
Yeah.
So the last
Love
segment's going to go quick. It's only like 4 minutes.
I say we touch on Innovation Park, Andy Moss, and the CEO at Nexus. I think that's the most important thing. And then where do we go from here?
I've had Andy on before.
Hopefully they put the right people in the seats and they come together. But kudos to him. He landed a killer gig.
What, Steven?
No,
Andy. Yeah.
He landed a gig with UT driving their innovation. And I mean, they've got Google, Facebook, Amazon, Dell. I mean, he definitely went from a field in Baton Rouge to off of Nicholson and GSRI.
Yeah.
He leveraged the fuel. They landed that fuel thing, and then he just leveraged it all the way. It's just great. It's amazing. He landed that fuel thing. It was huge. How long have you been doing this, Brian?
This show in its current form since 2019. I've been in radio since 2004. Started in October of 2004. I was a part-time scrub until August of 2005. And it sucks, but like Katrina catapulted my career. It wiped out all the stations in New Orleans, and they were all broadcasting from up here.
I remember that.
And yeah,
I remember
United
that.
Radio
And it was like
broadcasters.
everybody was listening to it too because it was like the best way to get information.
Yup.
Because a lot of people didn't have cable or power, like so the radio was huge.
But those months after Katrina, like the first 48 hours when like folks had either evacuated and couldn't get back home or they were still in New Orleans trying to get out. Like I worked round the clock for like 48 hours, just manning a board, manning the phones, talking to state police, like just whatever I could do, I said yes to. And then the months after that, I had fill-in shifts because everybody needed to go home to New Orleans to work on their house. And, it's like they'd work a shift and then they'd drive back home and then they'd drive back up to come to work. And it was wherever I could spell somebody for 4 hours here, 4 hours there. And then I came out the other side with a full-time job, which, kind of went from, like literally when I was hired, my job was to walk around with a cordless phone from midnight to 7 a.m. All the stations were automated. But if that phone rang and either one of the stations was off the air or the Riverbend plant melted down and we're all, it was either emergency alert or a silent sense. So, yeah, that escalated quickly because I just happened to have been in the building at 3:00 in the morning on the 29th when the storm hit.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, that was interesting times. I remember being glued to the radio specifically. Yeah. I do.
Well, we were getting better information because we were the right feed to state police.
You were getting really good information. I remember.
And TV couldn't provide anything that we didn't have because the city was all blocked off. So you had no video. There was no video footage they could serve.
Right. It was blocked off. What time do you have to get here for the show?
I usually get here about 4:45. I think if I really wanted to push it, I can get here 5:15 and be okay. But I like to make sure all my ducks are in a row first. So.
I don't blame you. It's got to be a lot to juggle every week.
Yeah.
Well,
because it's morning drive, so it's kind of ADD radio. You know, I don't spend more than 2 segments on an individual topic. And at the same time, though, I know my audience is churning over every 40 minutes or so to where, like, if you're listening at 6:15, you're probably not listening at 8:15. You're at work already. You know, you're on the, opening up your emails and dealing with your own shit. So it's I know. Okay, perfect example. I know my wife is listening from 6 o'clock to 6:30, and then she's got the circus. She's gonna get all the kids dressed and out the house and everything. And I'll see the ups and downs on Facebook, and the Facebook number is not a real number, but it's there and it's visible. So.
Right.
856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're talking about the lack of innovation or the lack of results in the space of innovation here in Baton Rouge. Barrett Blondo is with us, and this all started with a LinkedIn post that he put up, where Barrett says the problem isn't a lack of talent, resources, or opportunity; it's a lack of alignment. Well, Barrett, I would argue that alignment takes direction, and direction takes direct doors. And we're looking right now with LSU's Innovation Park and with Nexus. Wow, we're at kind of a pivotal time here.
Yeah, that's my point, and why I made the post is that we're in a pivotal time with LSU Innovation Park and Andy Moss taking a new role at UT, and then Nexus interviewing a CEO this week. I think today and tomorrow they're interviewing the 2 candidates, Tony Zanders and David Collins, and then on Friday I think they're going to make a decision.
Okay,
from what I've heard.
So what is the biggest quality that the next CEO of Nexus needs?
Obviously I'm a little biased because I know Tony real well with skill type. So,
right.
What I think they need is to know everybody that's in the ecosystem throughout the state of Louisiana and be a connector.
Okay.
And a connector of talent, connector of resources, and then an advocate for the entrepreneurs. It needs to be laser focused on moving the entrepreneur forward. And what I love about Tony is he's been in the trenches with us. He is a founder. He has run a tech company for several years, so he kind of knows the pain points and what it is to get these things to market.
You also mentioned LSU's Innovation Park. You talk about location when it comes to Nexus. I would argue LSU's Innovation Park is probably worse.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 hubs of innovation in Baton Rouge are Florida Boulevard, and then you've got GSRI at Nicholson in a field. And both buildings are extremely dated, and they've been retrofitted to try to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're jamming a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
Well,
but that being said, though, I mean, Florida Boulevard is it's undergoing this whole renovation for the entire thing. 6 different phases over the next couple of years. Would this be a better discussion to have if you could put the Innovation Park and Nexus literally next door to each other?
I think you pull the resources and you put them in one place. It's not about real estate. It's about the resources and the talent and retaining the talent. You know what I mean? And so I think it needs to be closer located to either downtown or LSU, and in some type of building that kind of makes people say, hey, what is Baton Rouge doing? What is Baton Rouge pushing forward? And what is Baton Rouge innovating?
Well, yeah, it's not at our front door.
Right.
Where they're at right now, where the innovation, the whole field is not at Baton Rouge's front door. So how do we move? Oh, you know what? We don't have enough time here. We're going to have to pick this conversation up another time.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, let's get you back on in a couple weeks and talk about, and we might have some new leaders involved to have them in the discussion as well. In the meanwhile, I appreciate you putting that post up, because when I started telling some folks we were going to have this discussion, they were like, oh, this is going to get good. And I'm like, it better. So he is Barrett Blondo with Falaya Real Estate. Thank you so much for hopping on board today.
Yep. Hopeful for the future.
We are all done for today. Moon Griffon is coming up next, y'all. We'll be back at it tomorrow. I believe we are. Yes, we do have Congressman Troy Carter tomorrow. We'll check in with Jeff Guerrero as well. We'll see you then. I knew that last segment was going to go way too fast. No matter what I do, it's all right. Facebook, we got to get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow.